Today I'm going to talk about the hips. So we have our femur that comes up our leg, bottom of our knee to the top of our hip. So right on the side is the head of our femur. You can just feel your pelvis, see if you can kind of feel that bone. And then we have two iliums, one on the side of the hip, another on the side. And then we have a sacrum in the back, right in the middle. So there's two joints in the back, two joints in the front. So ideally, when we're moving, we want those three bones, the two iliums and the sacrum, to have three separate movements. But in time, when the tissue gets tight, the fascia gets tight, our pelvis starts moving as one unit. So we're going to start with an exercise using our pinky balls. And we're just going to feel the side of our hip, and that's the head of our femur. And we're going to place the pinky ball all along that femur as we're laying on our side. So go ahead and lay on our side. And just place the ball either right in the front of your hip bone or in the back, whatever feels good for you. So it's right in the front of the head of the femur. And then just noticing what that feels like. If it's tender, if you don't feel anything. And then you can move the ball a little forward or a little back. You can even slightly rock your pelvis, and that can help the tissue to find a new direction to move. So we can get a knot in our pelvis, just like we can get a knot in our shoulder. And so this is a really good one for runners, people who sit a lot, pretty much any profession, any hobby. Yeah, and go at your own pace. And I'm just going to slowly move the ball around that hip joint. So it's a ball and socket joint. So we have our ilium, and then we have the head of the femur. It kind of just sits in there. And ideally, we want our femur to glide. But when the tissue that's surrounding that femur in the front and in the back, when it gets tight, then that femur can't get the optimal range of motion that it's capable of. So you'll notice a lot of times people will start to get kind of like the granddaddy shuffle. And that can be part of when these hip muscles get tight, we can't get that range of motion, that extension back. And that's also true for the inner leg muscles, the front, the back, and we'll get into that down the road in other clips. Yeah, so just slowly moving the ball around. You can rock your pelvis or not rock it. If you find an area that feels tender, you can also just slowly let your body melt over it. Noticing what your breath does. Yeah. And then I'm going to flip onto the other side. You can stay on that side or you can turn over, go at your own pace. So it's really good throughout the day. So in the clip with the feet and the ball, I talked about just starting to pay attention to like those old sayings when you find yourself tippy-toeing in a certain situation or around people. And imagine if you were to actually tippy-toe, how that could potentially affect your pelvis. And so you want to start noticing when you're in certain situations or you get a stressful phone call, whether it's good or bad, you get overexcited or just like anxiety or anything. Notice what your body does. Does your pelvis tighten? A lot of people kind of clench their butts. And I'm sure we can all think of a million sayings around that. Yeah, so I'm just slowly moving the ball around the head of the femur. You want to be sure to get the front side, and that's more where the hip flexors are and also where the quads come up and attach up to the pelvis. And then when you're ready, you can slowly sit up. And then go back to the position you started in, whether it's walking around, sitting on your ankles, sitting in a chair. And now just noticing what your pelvis is doing, if that feels different than when you started. Yeah. And if that feels better on some level, you can start to just feel, what does better feel like to you? So more walking and moving, our feet have the ability to create a nice figure eight as we're walking, but we lose that ability when something starts to tighten. And it's the same with our pelvis. So our pelvis will follow our feet, that natural figure eight, but that gets kind of lost when restrictions happen. So this is a nice way just to kind of keep that tissue nice and healthy, um, keep your pelvis a little more in alignment. Sometimes one can get higher than another. And this is a nice way to keep that fascia lengthened out to create some space for those bones to move in a more balanced way. All right, hope it helps.